So, as this is the first video of this channel, I thought I'd introduce you to the area that I live. Chesterfield, a small town in Derbyshire, which is pretty much right in the centre of the UK and is alleged to be very, very haunted. So I thought we'd take a look at some of those hauntings close to home. From castles, prisons, pubs and even on top of some of the highest peaks in the county, hauntings appear to be commonplace in Derbyshire. As you would expect, the likes of Bolsover Castle, Derby Jail and Haddon Hall make the list. Some have the most chilling tales, including one of a small child seen holding the hands of visitors as they walk around the castle, only for those hands it holds being unaware the child is there. So we have a look at the Crooked Spire in Chesterfield. The iconic Crooked Spire of Chesterfield St Mary's and All Saints Church is a familiar sight on Chesterfield's skyline. How the spire came to be in its current state is usually explained by the use of green or unseasoned timber in its construction. However, there are also some popular folk tales explaining the phenomenon, and some of them involve the devil himself. A place of worship may seem an odd place to find the devil taking a breather, but nevertheless, according to one such tale, this is the spot where he chose to rest himself one night. Stopping to rest on the top of the church, so the story goes, the devil wrapped his long tail around the spire to stop himself from falling off. As he sat there drifting up from the church, below came the smell of incense. This offended and irritated the nose of the devil so much that it caused him to sneeze. He flew off in such a hurry that he forgot to first unwind his tail, with the result that the spire was pulled and twisted in its current peculiar shape. A second version claims that a local blacksmith was shoeing the devil and mistakenly drove a nail into the devil's hoof, causing the evil one such pain that he took off with a yell. As he flew over Chesterfield in a fit of rage and agony, he kicked out at the spire, twisting it out of shape. There are other tales connected with the Crooked Spire, one of which makes the rather cheeky prediction that if a virgin should ever marry in the church, its spire will straighten out again. Chatsworth House. Bess of Ardwick, who finished constructing her home around 1560, is one of several shades to haunt this house. Mary Queen of Scots is rumoured to walk where she was once held captive, while a grey lady and a white woman haunt other parts of the building. The library is haunted by a transparent figure which drifts from shelf to shelf. The bridge on the grounds is haunted by a screaming woman who was forced to watch her baby drown after it was thrown into the river by her partner. I have never seen that when I've been through Chatsworth, by the way. Bolsover Castle, built on the site of a medieval fortress. Bolsover Castle is an extraordinary 17th century aristocratic retreat and is reputedly so haunted that English heritage staff keep a ghost book as they get so many reports of paranormal activity. There have been sightings of a female ghostly presence in the kitchen area and a child who appears in a fireplace before disappearing. Strange noises are often heard, smells appear for no reason, and some visitors have reported hearing the sound of horses' hooves passing through the walls. Sutton Scarsdale Hall near Bolsover. When driving along the M1, you may have noticed the large, gaunt, stately home of Sutton Scarsdale, standing on the other side of the motorway to Bolsover Castle. Now in the care of English Heritage, what is left of the interior of the hall gives rise to stories of dismembered floating arms beckoning visitors towards the entrance of the cellars. Footsteps are heard in the cellars and lights of various colours appear before vanishing. There is also the tale of the ghost of a sobbing lady dressed in white who is often seen gliding between the hall and the church. Built by the formidable Elizabeth Talbot, the Countess of Shrewsbury, also known as Bess of Ardwick, Hardwick Hall near Chesterfield, built in the 1500s. There are many reported sightings of ghosts at Hardwick Hall, including that of a blue lady. The grounds are said to be haunted by the ghost of Thomas Hobbes, a philosopher, mathematician and writer who worked at Hardwick as a tutor. His dying wish was to be buried in the grounds of the hall, but this was not granted, and many believe that his apparition still walks the grounds. There have also been reports of visitors and staff hearing children's voices, doors opening and closing of their own accord, stones being thrown at the windows from outside, and individual books appearing on the floor. The mischievous activity is thought to be a playful poltergeist. The ruins are supposedly haunted by the noted 17th century author and philosopher Thomas Hobbes. I grew up about a mile from Ardwick Hall, other than some strange citrus smells when I've been walking around the hall. I have never seen anything at all. Iam Hall and Iam Churchyard, the gritstone Jacobean manor house of Iam Hall, which dates back to 1671, is said to be haunted by a ghostly apparition of the White Lady. Reportedly, the ghost of a girl who drowned herself in the washhouse well. The famous plague village itself also has a ghostly presence. Catherine Mompesson, wife of the rector at Iam, who encouraged the villagers to segregate themselves from all outsiders during the Black Death, is said to haunt the churchyard at Iam over 300 years after her death. The Old Royal Hospital at Chesterfield on Holywell Cross. Nurses on the night shift reported ghostly footsteps in the Nightingale Children's Ward and the sound of taps being turned on in the sleuth's room, even though no one had entered it. Kate Redfern, who was a student nurse on the ward for 3 months in the late 70s, said it was reputedly haunted by a former nurse who turned oxygen cylinders down. It was definitely spooky when you had to work night duty there. Gray Wilson also commentated on the Old Chesterfield Facebook site, "I saw her at least 5 times when I was a student nurse on there." And several stories have sprung up about the haunting of the hospital on Holywell Street. One belief was that it was a former nurse who took her own life after the death of a child in her care, and her spirit would turn off the oxygen supply. Another was that it was a matron who jumped to her death every night, and another claims the hospital was haunted by the ghosts of children. Our final story is about the old Dolphin Inn. Built over 500 years ago, it's said to have been a stopping off point for highwaymen, including Dick Turpin. The dolphin was a well-known Christian symbol in medieval days, which gives credibility to the presumed date of the founding of the pub. The Dolphin Inn claims to have more spirits than the ones found behind the bar. Recently, a hidden room was discovered on the first floor of the pub, and a corridor in the pub was once a Derby street. Visitors have reported seeing a blue lady, reportedly the ghost of a woman who had an affair with highwayman Dick Turpin, and a small child on the stairs. Perhaps the most gruesome story surrounds a young 18th century doctor who had the body of a woman secretly delivered by 2 body snatchers in the dead of night. He took the body into the cellar and began to dissect it, only for her to suddenly awake with a scream, having been buried alive, presumably in a coma. She leapt up from the table and ran round the cellar screaming hysterically before dying of blood loss. It's said that her screams can still be heard in the building. The pub once had a doctor's surgery built onto it as an annex. Criminals were taken there after they'd been hanged for dissection by a local physician. It's claimed the cellars were used to store the bodies of the criminals. It's said that a poltergeist, perhaps the soul of one of those dissected prisoners, turns off the taps of the beer kegs in parts of the cellar. A blue lady has been seen walking through the old lathe and plaster walls, and even to this day, some staff are unwilling to venture into certain parts of the building alone. Hopefully you enjoyed our first video on the crazy and the weird. We'll be back with some more stuff very, very soon.